Hi, radiant beings. I'm so grateful to be here with you for some plug in and power up. Here we are. So grateful to be connecting with you all. Thank you for tuning in. Hashtag replay if you're catching the replay with me this morning. Today, I want to talk about the energy that's been swirling and moving, and hopefully, you felt the energy lift and what that means, how we can utilize what's happening right now. Happy spring. I feel so grateful that we're in the spring energy and spring equinox vibes already, which feels so good. And I want to actually draw some cards to kind of set our intention this morning, if you guys are okay with that, because whenever there's scattered energy like this, I find that like it does a number. It does a number on our consciousness. It does a number on our collective energy. And it does a number on who we are, how we show up, what we think we should be doing, and all that stuff. And I really want us to just drop in for a moment and get intentional so that we can have a collective conversation and I can tap in and tune in to what you all are asking for as well, and that I can hold that collective space. And then I'll introduce myself, okay? So wherever you are, if you can, close your eyes. If you can't, just keep your eyes open, but focus in for a moment. We set the collective intention today to tap into the highest and best good for all, the highest and best conversation, the highest and best energy. As I surrender to the divine will, I surrender to Creator, asking that this vessel be exactly that, a vessel for the greater good, a vessel for the light, and that I tap into the highest conversation that will serve all, and that we all get to tap into this higher energy and presence and energy, so that it fuels, it restores, it regenerates, it rejuvenates, brings us back into highest alignment so that we can serve on the highest level. And so it is. So again, I want to thank you for being here. I'm going to tune in. I'm drawing from my own deck, my Divine Wisdom Insight cards. And these are the three that are popping out. They're literally popping out of the deck. So this is the Divine Wisdom Insight cards. And this was a beautiful passion project that I started writing these sayings when I was working with clients in person. And I'd write them on sticky notes because I'd have these incredible drop downs that would come in. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's so good. And I'd catch it and I'd write it on a sticky note. And by the end of, I've been working with clients one-to-one for 24 years. So I'd say over about 15 years, I had a stack of sticky notes like you wouldn't believe. And they traveled with me everywhere that I went. And at one point, I remember asking Creator, I said, what am I going to do with these? Like, why am I saving these sticky notes? And they said, you'll see, there'll be a time where you'll know exactly what you're supposed to do with them. And then the time came to create my insight deck. And so that's what they are. So they're not necessarily oracle cards. They're more insights. And these were insights that directly dropped down while I was live in person with clients. And the most amazing sayings would come through, and they were so powerful, and they were catchy, and they were easy to remember. And so when I started creating the Divine Wisdom Insight cards, I remember when I was asking for guidance on what is the imagery going to look like? And Creator said, just let go, surrender, you'll be shown. And sure enough, I ended up intersecting with a beautiful goddess who paints, and the way she paints is incredible. And when I saw this, which became the face of the cards and the deck, I knew right away, I'm like, that painting. So I purchased the painting from her, and I kept looking at it, and I kept thinking, this is going to serve as the face. And then we entered into this really beautiful conversation of what it would look like if I hired her and commissioned paintings from her. And so she already had some really beautiful paintings done. And all in all, she ended up designing and painting 33 unique images. And that's what the deck became. And so the first one that I'm going to start with is I Choose. And this is one of the master cards. So in the deck, there are 11 cards that the front and the back is the same, which is like a mirror reflection. And sometimes we need that mirror reflection. That's our mastery, our point of mastery. So the point of mastery today is I choose to refocus, regroup, and reboot. Totally aligned for the energy of what has been going on. I don't know if you guys felt it last week, but man, we were in especially a 3-day crunch. A lot of people felt it for a longer time period. Some attribute it to the Mercury retrograde. Sometimes there's these moments and these times where the energy gets a little wonky, a little funky, and it doesn't feel so supportive and it doesn't feel so good. And that's what we were in for a couple weeks, but intensely the last bit. It kind of reminds me of giving birth to a baby. It's like that last little bit before you're giving birth. It's uncomfortable, and you feel the contractions, and you're doing everything in your power to just stay centered and sane. And you know that big change is coming. You can feel it. You're right at the precipice point. You're literally standing at the door knocking. And that's what this card represents, is that you're here right now in this moment to choose to refocus your energy, refocus where your mind is, refocus maybe where your creational energy is, regroup. So meaning gather yourself up again. Okay. Now, whenever we go through these cleansing periods, like the intensity of what last week was, it can churn up a lot of stuff. It can bring a lot to the surface for humanity. And whenever we see that, we know, Gabriel and I, because again, I've worked with well over 15,000 clients one-to-one at this point in the last 24 years as an intuitive healer, a soul coach, and spiritual mentor. And one of the things that I've seen most with people is that when we hit these moments of rebirth or facing a lot of stuff, we have to get honest with ourselves. We have to take a moment to actually look at what's going on, because avoidance doesn't work anymore. Sweeping it under the rug, that's never worked for anybody. Pretending like it's okay, that's lack of responsibility. We have to actually stop, pause, and face whatever it is that we're feeling. And sometimes that requires us to refocus our attention, regroup, and then we reboot, which means we reset. We allow ourselves to go through a reset. And I feel like this is what humanity passed through, especially the latter part of last week. The weekend felt great. Like when Friday came, the energy felt lifted. Saturday, amazing. Yesterday, amazing. The energy felt so clear and so free, because we passed through that rites of passage moment. And every now and then humanity is given these rites of passage moments, not to trip us up and not to make our life hard or more difficult, but really to make our life better, so that we can stop and pause and look at, what is it that I need to face? What do I need to look at? What have I been avoiding? What have I been pretending is not there? What am I not taking responsibility on? This is our opportunity. We're given these moments to look at ourselves and look at our life and see what's happening. And then we get to reboot, and then we get to go again. It's like rebirthing. You pass through the birth canal, you pass through the rites of passage, and you come out brighter, lighter, shinier, happier, freer, more abundant. This is what we see with clients happening all the time. But what happens if we don't have the right tools, or we don't have the right mentorship, or maybe we're hanging on to maybe some teachings or practices that aren't serving? This is what I've seen. I was reflecting on this morning on my walk, was that a lot of times people will get a little jump start, right? It's like getting a little boost to your car battery. But if there's a serious issue with the battery, it will keep burning out. The battery will constantly have to be pumped up and boosted to just have it die again. And that means we're not looking at the fundamental issues of what's causing the breakdown in the first place, what's causing ourselves to feel not whole, not happy, not abundant, not flowing, not energized, not youthful. If we can stop and pause and look at it, and this is why I love working with clients so much, is that for Gabriel and I, we love that moment when we can just drop in with you all and be like, let's stop. You're safe. You're held. You're supported. We've got you. Now let's come in and let's get real. Let's drop in for a moment and let's have an honest conversation, and to ask those bigger questions of what's really going on here. Every client session, one-to-one, I always say, okay, what's happening? What's coming up for you? Let's do a check-in. What's top of mind, top of heart? And giving that space for people to open up. Now you can do that for yourself. Just do a check-in with yourself. What's going on? What's happening in my world? What am I seeing? What am I confronting? What am I avoiding? What am I not looking at? What's presenting? Where am I ready to grow to? What am I getting ready to move into? And is there anything that I need to heal, shift, and clear that might be in the way of that next version of myself? Without asking that question, what happens is people start this journey, like they get a little boost, right? A little jump start, and they're good for a little bit, and then they find themselves circling back again. And it happens again. And then they're like, okay, I'll get another boost. And that's good for a little while. And then they circle and they loop again. And then they get another boost and then they circle again. And I've watched people go through this years. I've watched some people go through this for years. And you can imagine how exhausting that would be, going through the same looping for years. And this is why clients, and I see Peter's here. Let me say hi to some people actually. Hi, Peter. Thanks for joining. Hi, Tara. Let me know in the comments if this is resonating with you. Because what we've seen with a lot of the clients that come in, they'll work with us, whether it's one-to-one or in Thrive, we stop and we look at the stuff. We're not afraid to look at the stuff. And then when you have the right tools and you have the right healing modalities available, you actually can heal, clear, release, remove, be done with, complete, and then you're done. You're completely done. And then you get to be free. and then you get to move on to the next whatever creation is. And a lot of times, the reason why people aren't getting to the longevity of their freedom, the longevity of their healing, the longevity of their abundance, the longevity of their creations in form is because we get tripped up. We get tripped up by the ego. We get tripped up by our past. We get tripped up by our loops and our patterns. We might get a boost for a moment. And then if the core issue isn't dealt with, we loop again. And we will keep doing that. Humanity will keep doing that until we finally face the core, face the root, heal it, and shift it once and for all. I've watched so many people loop. And I feel like when we're given these moments, like last week especially, and let me know in the comments if you felt it, for 3 days, it was intense. It was so intense. I even said to Garo, I'm like, I'm tapping out. I'm like, I'm going to sleep this one off because this is intense. The energy was so thick and it was so dense. And it just reminded me of like that moment when you know, the baby's coming and you're like, I'm so tired. Like, I just want to like let go now. I just want this to be done. Like, I just want the baby to be here. And I think we feel that a lot when we're like, I just want the creation to be here. I want my intention. I want my dream to be here now. Right? So the next card that I chose that popped out of the deck this morning was, we're going to work in reverse order. Choose freedom over fear. Expansion awaits. This is one of my favorites. I actually gifted the original painting to one of our Thrive clients because I had a promo when I launched the deck that if anybody bought 10 decks or more, their name would go into a draw and they would win this painting. And Casey McDonald, she won this painting. And so she has the original. It's one of my favorites. It's one of my favorites because I love that she's climbing this ladder. And I feel like sometimes life can feel like that. When we're climbing this ladder, we're like, is there any end in sight? Like, I feel like I'm just climbing and climbing and climbing. And I'm feeling a little exhausted. Or we're in this space where we keep choosing fear instead of freedom. So it's like when we choose freedom, you climb higher heights. You climb higher heights in your consciousness. You climb higher heights in what's possible. You climb higher heights in terms of what you want to create because you let go of the fear. The fear still comes. The fear can still be there. There's moments where you set big intentions or you're like, I'm growing in all the ways. And then fear comes up. That's the ego. That's totally normal. Self-preservation, self-protection. What are you doing? You must be crazy. Do not get on that ladder. It's like, do not get on the ladder of life. Do not get on that ladder. Do not take another step. Do not grow. Do not aim for higher. You stay right where you are. Stay with your feet on the ground. And the ego will do that. It'll stop us. It'll hold us right where we are. And that's where I see sometimes people will stop themselves from dreaming. They'll stop themselves from taking these big steps because they're afraid or they lean into the fear because fear comes up for everybody. It's not like I'm immune to fear. I have fear that comes up. Right now, there's a big, 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 beautiful decision that we're making moves on. There's fear that's coming up daily in all sorts of ways. And I keep going anyways. I'm going to keep climbing. And while I'm facing the fear, I will stop, just like what I said a moment ago. I will stop. I will drop in. I will address the fear. I will use the tools that I have well mastered over my whole life because I started meditating when I was 14 and I've been in like open awake since I came out of the womb, really. And this has been my life's journey. This is the work that we do with clients, teaching our clients how to face fear, clear the fear, and keep growing, keep dreaming, keep creating. Because if we stop creating, then we never know what we're going to reach. And up here, if you can see, there's like all these beautiful sparkling stars. There's beauty. There's this big orb of light at the top, which to me, the orb of light is like the soul. I feel like more and more, this card for me represents the path that we take to become more and more like our soul. We're climbing each rung, and each rung represents a growth point, a learning in our own path to become more and more of who and what we actually are as our soul self. And the more that we take those adventures, the more that we stretch ourselves, the more that we step into the unknown, the more that we face fear and clear fear, the more that we face whatever we're facing and keep growing and keep moving, we get to become that higher soul's energy. We get to become this up here. But if we stop, and it's okay to stop for a moment. If you feel a little sleepy and you're like, woo, like this has been a journey, that's okay. That's why being in conscious circles is so important and so powerful, because you get to drop in for a moment when you're weary and you get to be held and you get to be supported. Some of you, that's what it feels like coming into Plug In and Power Up. This has been 10 years Plug In and Power Up. You get to drop in with me every Monday morning, and you get to just be held in the light. You get to be held in this energy. You get to be held in source. And then we get to see what expands from there. And that's part of letting go of control too. We have to be willing to let go a little bit too, and then trust that our higher self is guiding the whole way. The last card, which was actually the first card that popped out of the deck, is let nature be your guide today. Now, I don't know if you can see this, but there is an animal. When I first saw this card, I was so drawn to it for a couple of reasons. There's a deer hidden in the imagery. And nature for me has always been number one, well, creator and nature. Because nature to me is a physical representation, as we all are, of creator God. And whenever I connect to nature, and some of you might have this too, where you look at a tree and all of a sudden it's like a face emerges from the tree, or you look at a rock and all of a sudden a shape or an animal or a face emerges from the rock as if the rock or the tree is speaking to you. This has been my entire life. My mom has this gift, my brother, my sister, our kids. I think most people do. It's just we've dialed down the ability to slow down and see and open beyond what the physical world. It's like, oh, that's just a rock. I remember the boys when we were testing out one of the schools here, and there was a question on one of the assignments that they were doing, and it was what's living versus what's non-living. And there was a rock, and the boys said it's alive, and the teacher said, no, the rock is dead, it's not alive. And the boys were like, no, it's living, it's alive. And she said, no, it's dead. And so they got into this big discussion. And when they came home that day, we didn't end up sending our kids to that school for good reason. But they had the discussion. They were like, but I believe that the rock is alive. And I said, you're right. Everything is alive. Everything has life force. But I get what she's trying to say. It's like it's one of those inanimate objects. It's not going to like walk and move itself, but it's alive. It has energy. It has consciousness. Everything does. Everything's connected to the divine. Everything in the earth is connected to the divine. And I believe Source Creator speaks through sometimes nature to us. I believe it's doing that all the time, whether it's hearing a certain bird in a moment, whether it's looking up at the right time and you just happen to see a cloud that looks like, I had this happen, looks like the face of someone who's passed away. I remember our friend Tammy, she passed away, I was 28, 27, somewhere in there, 27, 28, when she passed. And I remember I helped her learn how to drive. And so I was in my car, and there were many moments, especially if the song The Rose by Bette Midler came on, because I sang that song. I recorded it at a recording studio for all my girlfriends when we were in high school. And so we'd play that song, we'd all be bawling. And it was like, this was the song that you would sing at our wedding whenever we all get married, you know? And I fulfilled on that. I fulfilled on that pact for sure. But I remember sitting in the car and I was driving along Highway 17 and the song The Rose came on the radio. And I felt Tammy immediately. And I felt her sitting. Actually, I felt her moments before the song even came on, sitting in the car beside, like in the passenger seat beside me. And I remember putting my hand out like this, as if I was holding her hand, and I could feel her energy. And then the song came on, and then I look up in front of me, and there's a cloud that has her face imprinted in the cloud. Can't make this stuff up, you guys. Like, it is so amazing how interconnected we are to everything. So if there's a moment where you feel disconnected, or a moment where you feel like, gosh, it's a little quiet, creator or source or my guides or my higher self, like I'm not getting too much, go out into nature, sit with nature, be still for a moment, drop in, connect to your breath, connect to creator, put your feet on the ground and just listen and observe. Let your higher mind open, let your eyes open. This is why every program Gabriel and I have ever facilitated, we teach people how to open their intuition and open their intuition to their higher mind, because without that, life just feels blasé. It's like the rock. No, sorry, the rock is inanimate. It's a dead object. And the boys are like, no, it's alive. I want you to get back to the magic of, yes, it's alive. The rock is alive. It has energy. It has presence. It has a message. And I believe all of life does. All of life has a message for us. If we are willing to stop for a moment, drop in, get present, feel, hear, open our eyes, and then view, see what we see. And sometimes you will literally see a deer in the trees emerge. And the deer for me has been one of my spirit animals since I was really, really young. anytime I was ever at a crossroads moment, or if I was in a lot of anguish or pain or heartbreak, I went through a lot of heartbreak when I was younger. And one of the most significant times that the deer animal totem showed for me was I was in a relationship, my first love, first everything, for 3 years. And then he ended up being with someone else. And I was heartbroken, especially after all that, right? First love, first energy, first everything, 3 years. Like, I was so heartbroken. And I remember walking along Highway 17, and it was early morning, and there was hardly anybody. This is at a time when there wasn't as much traffic as what you'd see on Highway 17 in Northern Ontario now. And I'm walking along, and I'm talking to Creator, and I'm like, help me, like, move through this. This is so painful. Help me to know what to do. Do I take them back? You know, do we walk back into this? Help me to know what to do. This is so hard, and this is so painful, and this is heart-wrenching and gut-wrenching. Show me what to do. And as I'm talking, like, so I'm 18, all right, when I'm having this conversation, and I swear to you, a deer jumps out of the forest from the left onto the highway. It stops and looks at me. There's no traffic coming. Now, Highway 17, if you know the Trans-Canada Highway in Canada, it's the longest highway, like from end to end, because it goes from end to end of our country. And it's a busy highway. Like, there's a lot of accidents. It's a busy, busy highway. For whatever reason that morning, there was hardly anybody on the highway. And the deer jumps out onto the road. There's no traffic. And I stop, and it stops. And it turns and it looks at me, and we're literally eye to eye. I'm maybe 15 to 20 feet max, 20 feet max from this deer. And we're just like staring at each other. And in that moment, I felt the connection of Creator. I felt God's presence. I felt connection like so many other times before. It was so powerful, palpable, and strong. And I felt like this deer literally was communicating to me and saying, it's going to be okay. You're strong. You're going to be okay. You're going to make it through this. Trust. Keep walking your path. You are guided. We're here. We support you. Your heart will heal. Your heart will mend. And as fast as that message came and it landed, that's it. It turned its head and jumped. It jumped. And I started running because I was like, oh my God, this was like one of the most profound moments. This was so sacred. I start running because it's like, you know, galloping, hopping, whatever you want to call it, down the road. And I'm running and chasing after it. And it goes off into the bush. And I was like, okay, I'm going to follow it. And I follow it, and I can't find it anywhere. Now they blend into the bush, but I can't find it anywhere. And I knew it wasn't for me to keep chasing the message. It wasn't for me to keep chasing the omen. It wasn't for me to keep chasing whatever that was in that moment, the sacredness. It was to be in that moment and to appreciate and love what I had received in that moment, and to honor what I received in that moment, to love what I received in that moment, to treasure it, to remember it, to bookmark it for the rest of my life, that I could sit here however many years later, from 18, right, to 48, that many years later, that I could sit here and remember and recall it and feel the same essence and the same presence. That's how powerful nature is. Nature is connected to source. We're all connected to source, to the divine, to Creator. And sometimes Creator will relay a message imprinted through nature for you to see with your eyes, because sometimes we're a little stubborn. Sometimes we just don't see. So sometimes we need to see with our physical eyes, not with our third eye. We need to see with the physical. We need to feel it in the physical. And then we feel it. We know it. It drops in and we're like, wow, can you believe that that happened? And it leaves us with this feeling that we're all connected, that we're all always supported. And I want you to know that regardless as to what you're facing, whatever you're moving through, whatever you're expanding into, you are all always supported. There is guidance everywhere. There's message and clarity and insight everywhere. That's why I call it divine insight cards, because the divine is speaking insights to us all the time. And if we happen to use it through a card, so be it. So be it. Right? I have to laugh because I just had this like thought pop in. I'll take a sip of coffee. For a couple years now, there was a very prominent author who made a lot of decks. And she found Christianity again, or found it for the first time, I'm not quite sure, and dismissed all what she created and went on this rant about, and there's rants that are going on online right now about like cards and all these things and what the meaning is, and that they're like, anything that's a divination tool is possessed or demonic or something. And I'm like, isn't a book a divination tool? That's divination, like think about what it means, right? You're connecting to the divine. When we go into nature, we're connecting to the divine. When we sit in prayer, we're connecting to the divine. When someone uses a mala bead, I have mala beads up there, which is older than the rosary. Those are divination tools. Connecting to the divine. When you're using cards like this, you're connecting to the divine. This is not inherently bad or evil. And there's a lot of craziness that's going on in the world right now about all this. I saw another surgeons, people are talking about it as if it's the first time they heard about it. Maybe it's the first time they heard about it. But this happened like 4 years ago, 5 years ago. We were like, whoa, what happened to so-and-so? Like, what happened? We got to catch that. Check that for ourselves. Because everything is divine. Everything's connected to Source Creator God. And so using a card, this is not inherently bad or wrong. All right? So we got to check ourselves. These are insight cards that allow you to connect deeper to yourself. I have to preface it now because there's so much crazy and nonsense going on in the world. And it creates further division and separation. And I feel like you and I, we get to choose connectivity. We get to choose to go higher and deeper. We get to choose to speak truth. We get to choose to be in a state of love, connect deeper with one another, be in love, states of love, not the other. So if ever you hear that kind of confusion, check it for yourself. You know, people use cacao here in Mexico to connect to the divine. Are they wrong? No. We have to check ourselves. And we have to bring the light. And we got to use discernment now. And we got to listen to truth. And sometimes listening to truth means turning down the volume on all the other stuff. So maybe that's part of what we need to do today as well, is tap back in, refocus, regroup, reboot. As we refocus and we regroup ourselves, we connect to the divine, we connect to Source, we connect to our heart. We face any fear that we're moving through. We clear fear. Hopefully you have the tools. I know a lot of you here are in our programs, you're in Thrive, you're in other programs of ours. I know that you're learning the tools to clear and heal, because that's what we do. That's what Gabriel and I specialize in, is helping people move through all that stuff. So if you're not in something like that, I hope and pray that you do have the tools to fully heal, self-clear, self-heal and clear. Move through fear. Keep growing, keep dreaming, keep setting intentions, become more of your soul self, keep dreaming and stretching yourself. You will grow and become your soul self every time you set a new intention and you grow. And then maybe if you're not seeing or hearing the divine speaking through anything right now, get out into nature, drop in, put your feet on the ground, open up, connect to the wind, connect to the sun, connect to Gaia, connect to earth, connect to the water, connect to nature, connect to animals. They will help you remember. It will help you remember. And if all else fails, you grab a deck of something that resonates with you. You pick up a book. There's certain books out there. Bible. It's a divination tool. It's all the same, whether I read from that or the Bhagavad Gita. These are all tools to help us reconnect. Whether I read from that or my own cards that came through the divinity in helping and being of service. There are so many tools available to us. We just have to start leaning in and tapping into that next wave of expansion and growth, especially at a time when there's so much up. There's so much up, right? Like there's so much up in our faces and up in the field right now. So it's going to require some discernment, and it's going to require some healing and clearing. But I know that you're here for it. Okay? All right, let's hear what everybody's saying. Hi, Maria. Thanks for being here. Thank you so much. You're a light too. Yes, right? I know. Like there's so much poo-pooing happening on so many different things, you know, and I just can't anymore. Like Maria knows her, and I've had some conversations back about it. I'm like, I just can't anymore. I'm like, we have to start checking ourselves, okay? Whether you pick up the Bible, whether you pick up Divine Wisdom Insight cards, whether you pick up a book from someone else, whether you pick up the Bhagavad Gita, whether you pick up Dead Sea Scrolls, whether you go connect to nature, whether you sit with yourself, the divine is speaking to you and through you all the time. It's ever present. We just have to open up and listen and receive, and it will be there. It will give us the exact message that we need. And sometimes it's through cards, and they are not inherently bad. And we got to check ourselves on that. Okay, we got to check ourselves on that, because I saw it circulating again. So I was like, oh boy, here's another round of it, right? So just be mindful, be aware, but then check yourself, right? Nature is so beautiful. I agree with you. Yes, I kept looping, and I've been doing the work to change the patterns. I know you have been. I know you have been, Tara. And like, I really want to congratulate you and salute you on that, because you know, it takes something to show up for yourself, and it takes something to be able to look at those patterns and say, you know what, I'm done with this. Like, no more. That's it. I'm done. Right? And then use the tools to be able to move yourself through. It's one of the most courageous things. It's like being on that ladder, right? It's one of the most courageous things. You look down, you're like, oh, you know, but then you're like, okay, I'm just going to keep going. It's one of the most courageous things that you could do for yourself. So I'm going to end it there. Thank you so much for tuning in. We have one more day of Thrive in 5, by the way. We've been doing Thrive in 5 over a month. We call it Thrive in 5 with a twist. And so we have one more week tomorrow at noon Eastern. So if you haven't yet registered, just type the number 5. Tomorrow we're going to be talking about abundance, prosperity, more energy, more love, more opportunities, more resources. How do we tap into the infinite wellspring of the more energy? And how do we start to really create that in our life consistently? That's what we're going to be talking about tomorrow in Thrive in 5 over in our large Facebook group, in Substack as well. So if you want to register for that and you want to get the workbook, because every week we've been releasing new pages for the workbook, just type the number 5 and I'll send you the link and you'll get the workbook. If there's anyone else that you know in your world that you think could benefit from this, that would love this, feel free to share it. Point them in our direction or connect us or share the video, this video. And I just find that we need to start doing this inner work now for real, like for reals. And Thrive in 5 is a great like initiation point to start, because it's gentle enough. The practices are 5 minutes, and we break it down in a really simple, easy way to be like, here's what you're facing. This is what needs to shift. And here's a 5-minute practice to get you going, you know? And if people choose to take a next step from there, that's great. And if not, that's great too. But at least there's movement happening. I'd rather see movement than no movement. I'd rather see people like taking the step and starting to do something than nothing at all. So if that resonates with you, share this video or connect them with me. And if you haven't yet registered, just type 5. I'll send you the link, and then we'll see you all tomorrow at noon, okay? You're so welcome. Thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you for being here, everyone. Have the most beautiful day today. I'm sending so much love to you. Have a beautiful, beautiful day. Mwah.